The consumer electronics market for intimacy technology has migrated away from basic mechanical devices. The focus in 2026 is on body-aware sensors designed to capture live emotional data as it happens. The core of this new telemetry relies on two distinct measurements: heart rate variability, which monitors nervous system stress, and galvanic skin response, which detects immediate physiological arousal and emotional spikes. Wearables transmit this live physiological signal to a partner's device, where precision linear resonant actuators translate the data into sub-millisecond physical touch profiles. This allows couples to synchronize heart rate rhythms and tactile feedback across continents in real time. A standard cybersecurity breach exposes static identifiers like passwords or emails. Intercepting a wearable's transmission exposes a continuous, unalterable log of human arousal, stress, and behavioral preference. Because these devices digitize the human nervous system, biometric intimacy hardware constitutes a highly sensitive attack surface within the consumer technology sector. Most consumer applications and fitness trackers rely on traditional public cloud infrastructure, transmitting and storing unencrypted records on centralized remote servers. Routing continuous emotional telemetry and private relationship data through these public servers creates a single point of failure for thousands of private biometric logs. Securing the digital romance ecosystem requires an industry pivot towards zero-knowledge local encryption architectures, removing cloud-based vulnerabilities from the workflow entirely. Under a zero-knowledge mandate, all processing and encryption tasks execute directly on hardware-level secure enclaves. The remote server never holds the encryption keys necessary to read the telemetry. Without strict zero-knowledge architecture, unencrypted intimacy hardware creates a persistent channel for extortion. To see why this payload is so valuable to attackers, we have to look at the mechanics of relationship biohacking. Couples use these digital sensing tools to mitigate interpersonal stress and facilitate emotional bonding. This tracking matrix breaks down the exact biometric parameters monitored by modern hardware. Heart rate variability identifies baseline nervous system stress and relaxation, while galvanic skin response isolates immediate emotional arousal. These sensors generate continuous, sub-millisecond profiles of body temperature fluctuations and breathing synchronization between partners. The objective here is bioharmony. Rather than logging speed and intensity metrics, the hardware provides actionable feedback to help partners mutually co-regulate their nervous systems. Active monitoring allows integrated AI to detect rising stress triggers during a conversation. Before a disagreement escalates, the wearable automatically intervenes with soothing haptic frequency prompts to lower cortisol levels. While these real-time interventions are effective for conflict resolution, they systematically construct a granular, quantifiable profile of a user's intimate psychology. Securing this payload requires different protocols than hiding text messages. The objective is protecting a live, continuous feed of raw human emotional states. Past compromises of dating services establish a baseline for the psychological damage caused by digital exposure. High-profile leaks yielded severe cases of blackmail based purely on exposed account names and preferences. Those legacy breaches relied on static, text-based data. Exposing a modern physiological profile gives an attacker granular proof of exactly what triggers a specific user's physical arousal and acute stress responses. This topology illustrates the path an intercepted data packet takes. As telemetry travels from a local sensor toward an unsecured public cloud, it passes multiple wide-area interception points. If intercepted, threat actors use these physiological responses and private behavioral logs to execute targeted cyber extortion campaigns. Attackers can also feed exposed biometric and voice data into machine learning algorithms to engineer synthetic partner personas, executing emotional phishing attacks against the victim's social circle.
There is also the secondary risk of rogue application developers intentionally scraping these intimate profiles from back-end servers for unauthorized resale to external data brokers. A modern intimacy breach provides the specific behavioral and physiological data required for deep psychological manipulation. Beyond active hacking, the intimacy tech ecosystem faces a passive, structural threat: large language model data ingestion. When couples use AI-assisted relationship coaches hosted on public clouds, unencrypted partner conversations and prompt logs can be automatically ingested into commercial AI training datasets. Once those private communication dynamics and intimacy patterns are baked into public AI weights, they cannot be cleanly extracted. The data is permanently assimilated into the model's logic. Standard data deletion policies and user retention rights are ineffective after ingestion occurs. Erasing a cloud file does not delete the behavioral patterns already learned by the neural network. Operating intimacy hardware on unencrypted cloud architectures commercializes deeply intimate emotional states without any mechanism for genuine user consent. Mitigating these threats requires a mandatory architectural countermeasure: client-side zero-knowledge encryption. This table breaks down key storage. On the left, vulnerable public cloud storage keeps encryption keys centralized on remote servers. On the right, the zero-knowledge model restricts all keys to local hardware secure enclaves, transforming data into unreadable ciphertext before it ever touches networks. If a hacker breaches the cloud server, they obtain nothing but encrypted noise. The raw biometric records remain mathematically inaccessible to both the attackers and the cloud hosting provider. By keeping the data unreadable off-device, this zero-knowledge approach prevents third-party LLM ingestion. Hardware manufacturers must enforce a mandate of 100% on-device processing for all AI relationship coaching, ensuring prompt logs never leave the local network. Protecting the physical hardware requires strict FIDO2 authentication protocols to block unauthorized local access to the intimacy gadgets. Users should deploy isolated IoT guest Wi-Fi subnets, quarantining these sensitive wearables away from potentially vulnerable smart home devices. Further mitigation steps include manually disabling automatic cloud backups for all related apps and actively revoking broad contact book or location permissions. Moving cryptographic trust entirely away from the cloud and locking it into local hardware is the only mathematically verifiable method of protecting biometric intimacy data. Evaluating the 2026 consumer landscape for digital romance means shifting theoretical architectural rules into practical hardware evaluations. This product matrix maps the current hardware market. Local biometric sync wearables achieve an exceptional privacy rating because they enforce on-device hardware encryption. Moving to AI relationship coaching apps, we see a serious operational constraint, carrying a high risk of prompt log ingestion. At the lowest tier, public unencrypted dating services continue to operate with severe vulnerabilities, remaining highly susceptible to data theft and extortion scams. Emotional co-megulation in the digital romance market is dependent upon the baseline cryptographic security of the physical hardware you select. The objective of relationship biohacking is utilizing precision sensors to create a secure sanctuary for intimacy, avoiding the trap of turning human connection into a robotic equation. There is a behavioral risk in over-relying on data metrics. Over-optimization can undermine the analog authenticity required for genuine bonding. In this ecosystem, verified hardware standards and strict offline execution modes are not optional features. They are baseline survival requirements. No degree of haptic telemetry can replace security hygiene or direct verbal communication. Zero-knowledge wearables can facilitate connection, but they are tools, not replacements. Authentic physical and emotional human connection remains the basis of any healthy relationship.